Hallo zusammen! Willkommen zur zweiten Grundlektion Deutsch. In plainer English, auf English, welcome to the second basic German course. You heard zwei in there, and zweite is the second, right? So zwei is two, and zweite is second. And before we begin, I thought we would take a quick glimpse, something I captured yesterday morning when I walked out of my flat, and I was about 50 meters away from the front entrance of my apartment building, and I, for the first time, noticed the statue. So let's take a look at this. As an artist, I'm always quite blown away by these types of things. I see some art that I just absolutely love. I fall in love with it and I wish I had done it myself. But here you'll see that there's always someone with a sense of humor. That's right. People all around the world are really pretty much the same. Okay, so we talked about doing food today, specifically restaurants, and it's just something that we can't cover, obviously, in one 30-minute lesson or so, but we will get to it all eventually. But this is going to be some of the heart of it. This will give us some of the background, some of the basics that we're going to need to be successful when we're ordering food and drinks, etc., and trying to pay. So today's agenda, of course, we're going to talk about the word please. Then we'll visit the culture corner. We'll go through our numbers and then into dining out. So now, what is this please? And why is it important to never forget? Why is please very important? Well, in spite of all of our mannerly teachings as we were growing up in the States and other places in the world where, por favor, s'il vous plaît, per favore, we all learn, somewhere along the line that please is a lot better than not having please. And so, with that said, we have bitte. And bitte can mean a lot of things. Let's take a look at this breakout. So where we have these 6 words, right, for, various things, pardon me, pardon, please, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Here you go. You're welcome. Not at all. The Germans have one word, bitte. So try to keep that in mind, right? It can be a little confusing, but I think it's important to remember. We had discussed in class there's a couple of funny memes, right? Almost every language has something like this, but definitely bitte means an awful lot. Now, for Culture Corner, we're going to talk about Freikörperkultur. Freikörperkultur. And this is a stock image of a sauna. You look at this, we've got them in the States, they're all around the world, right? Sauna culture is a big deal. But I want everyone to know that if you get invited to a German sauna by a friend, do not be alarmed when you get there and clothing is absolutely prohibited. It is just not allowed. You cannot wear clothes in a German sauna. And they are co-ed, right? Both genders mix, no big deal. It's not something that's looked upon as untoward or sexual in nature. It is literally just part of their culture. It's like a free body culture, which is where we get the term Freikörperkultur. Freikörperkultur, it just means free body culture. So frei for free, Körper for body, and Kultur clearly is a German word for our culture. So free body culture, it's a thing here. just be prepared for that. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's not like a big. It's not something like it would be in the States. It's literally just people going to get their schwitz on, right? To get a sweat going. They have shows in these saunas. They have these folks who come out. They're the sauna masters, and they'll bring various herbs and oils and other things, and they'll wet them and they'll sprinkle it as you've got all the steam coming off the rocks. I mean, it's really cool. So I would highly suggest that if you're strong-willed, if you're free-spirited, or not so, I don't know. If you got it in you, check it out. It can be an awful lot of fun. But like I said, beware. Don't go thinking it's going to be like a spa day, manis, pedis, and all that. The sauna, the Badehause, it's a different thing altogether. So let's talk about our numbers 1 through 9. I will go through them real quick, and we can, and of course you can just memorize, on your own time. So 1 through 9 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And if you remember that vier, it's not a vir, vier, and that U with the umlauts on our 5 there. It's a very difficult word for most people, so just 5, 5. And even if you say 5, they're going to know what you mean, but try to say it correctly if you can. That way we can avoid any misunderstandings. So 10 on up to 19. If you look over here under the Union Jack, I have these numbers written out as 10, 11, 12, and then 3-10, 4-10, 5-10, and so on. That's intentional because I'm trying to show you how the words, are formed, right, to make these numbers. So, for example, 10 is 10, 10, 11 und 12, 12, that's 12. Now, if you look at 13, it's literally 3, 10. Look at the word, 13, 13. So 10 is 10, 3 is 3, 13 literally is 13. So 4 and 10 is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 und 19. I think that is probably a pretty good way to put that. Also, you'll notice here as we go to 20, 20 through 29, you'll see that I have them written out as 20, and then 1 and 20, 2 and 20, 3 and 20, and so on to 9 and 20. That's because, again, looking at the actual words for the numbers, 20, that's 20, but then if you 1 and 20, 21, 1 and 20, right? 21. So you see the EIN, that's ein, and then UND is the and then 20, which is the word for 20. So 21, 23, right? 24, 28, you can go all through here. It's the same thing. It's 1 and 20, 8 and 20, and so on and so forth. So running through them, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Now we will I'm going to give you the numbers, the whole numbers, right? They're for 30 through 100, because the same rule will apply. So for 30, you have 30. You can also say 30. I just happen to say 30. 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So again, if you had 34, it would be 34. If you had 66, it would be 66. And obviously 100 would become 200 and on up, right? So keep these in mind, right? Keep that formation in mind for the compounding, so that when you're approaching your numbers, you'll have that visual in your mind that will help you not only hear them better, but then remember how to pronounce them. Now remember, in our numbers practice, the primary reason we're learning our numbers from the very get-go is so that we can pay for things or sell things, depending. And so remember, we have two forms of currency here. We have the euro. Remember that EU is an oi sound, euro. And then you have cent. All right. Now the cent will also have euro coins, right? We've seen them. You have the €1 coin and the €2 coin, but those are still considered Münzen or Wechsel, change, coins. And so when you're talking about your numbers, when it comes to money amounts, it's euro and then cent follows. So for example, here we have 39 euros and 20 cents. You will hear that at the register as 39,20 bitte, 39,20 bitte. You might hear 39,20 etc. But you want to listen for the numbers. 39,20 bitte. That's more often than not how you're going to hear that number pronounced. So how would you pronounce this number? What is this number? Think about this. Remember that word for 12? It's got that O with the umlaut, right? 12,30 €. So that's how you would hear that, more than likely. 12,30 €. How about this one? Well, in French, it's funny how they make 80. It's 80, 80, so 4 20s. It's not so bad in German. So here it is 4,80 €. 4,80 € bitte. Now, let's get into going out for dinner. All right, so this is Ausgehen fürs Abendessen. Ausgehen fürs Abendessen. And let's start by memorizing our menu, or die Speisekarte. Die Speisekarte. So appetizers, soups, salads, meat dishes, vegetarian and vegan, noodles, desserts. Our German words for those are Vorspeisen, so before dining, right? Before eating. Vorspeisen is an appetizer. Your soups become Suppen. Salads are Salate. Meat dishes become Fleischgerichte. Gerichte. Vegetarian and vegan is vegetarisch und vegan. Noodles become Nudeln. And desserts are Nachspeisen. Nach means after, right, or following. So you might see on a German application, deine Vorname bitte und deine Nachname bitte. So your first name and your last name, right? So you'll notice here that all of these in English are ending with an S, with the exception of vegetarian and vegan, and that's because we're showing plurality. So you more often than not will see plurality expressed with an N at the end of a word in German, or just the E, depending. So Vorspeise becomes Vorspeisen, Suppe becomes Suppen, Salate, Salads become Salate, Fleischgerichte, Nudeln und Nachspeisen. Now let's look at our drink menu, and that in German is die Getränkekarte. Die Getränkekarte. Remember, every one of our letters are pronounced. in German. Die Getränkekarte. Die Getränkekarte. So red wines, white wines, beers, non-alcoholic drinks, soft drinks, coffee, and tea. So red wines become Rotweine. White wines become Weißweine. Beers become Biere. And non-alcoholic drinks and soft drinks are both alkoholfreie Getränke. Alkoholfreie Getränke. Coffee and tea is Kaffee und Tee. Kaffee und Tee. Now, die Wasseroptionen, these are your options for drinking water. Most of you like still water. I can't figure what that is. I guess it's because I was raised by Germans, but we always had to have our Sprudel. And sometimes when I was growing up, we couldn't find any. We would literally, my mother and I, we were just jonesing for Sprudel or sparkling water, and so we would drink an Alka-Seltzer. That's that level of addiction. So the Wasseroptionen ist Sprudel, which is sparkling, stilles Wasser, which is you'll see that also called naturelle or naturel. Medium Sprudeln is still sparkling, but it's not quite as aggressive as a full-on Sprudel. You'll also see these things labeled as Sprudelwasser, Wasser mit Kohlensäure. That's a crazy word there, Kohlensäure. Literally means carbonic acid. So Wasser mit Kohlensäure. Seltes Wasser, which I think we could probably, get out of there the clue, seltzer water. And then finally, Wasser mit Gas. Wasser mit Gas. Okay? And water with gas. Pretty simple stuff. Now, when we're talking about die Weinoptionen, our wine options, the majority of Germans, like the majority of the world, seem to drink drier wines, and I find myself included with that. But on a scale going from sweet, we're almost talking saccharine, cancer-causing sweet, in my awful metaphor for it. I just don't really care for sweets, so nevertheless, sorry, I'm bringing my influence to the table here, but süß, all right, so you have an S and then the U, umlaut, and then we have that estet, or the scharfes S at the end, that double S at the end. And so it's süß is sweet. And then up from there, you'll see labels on wine that will say lieblich, which literally means lovely, but it's going to be sweet, but not quite as sweet as the süß. And then you have halbsüß. Halbsüß, right, is semi-sweet. Halb is like half, right? So it's half sweet. Halbtrocken, trocken is half dry. Feinherb is off dry. And then you have my favorite, which is trocken. Trocken is just flat dry. Meine Lieblings ist eine Trockensekt, like a German sect, like a Prosecco or Champagne. I like those very much. Those are my go-to cocktails, to be honest with you. And Furztrocken is the driest of the dry. And Furztrocken literally means fart dry. Fart dry. Fart dry. Only in Germany. Fart dry. And that's actually a thing. So, let's get on now to our Lebensmittel. We're going to talk about food. Okay, this is a word that I know you've seen when you shopped at the Edeka or Rewe or Lidl, Wasgau, Globus, Real, Lebensmittel. So let's talk about what Germany is really famous for. It seems they've invented this thing called bread. They're so good at it. It's like going to Paris and having a croissant, and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, these are so good. They must have been invented here. Yeah, they were. But nevertheless, Germans know their bread. And so when you have a loaf of bread, it's Brot. Brot. When you have small pieces of bread, various rolls and biscuits, etc., they become Brötchen. 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 So you've got these two separate functions of the word there, right? So Brötchen, Brötchen, Brötchen. Then my favorite is cheese. I love cheese, and here it is Käse. For our Spanish-speaking learners out here, we know queso, right? And there's actually nothing relative from the French fromage, but Käse. Käse is cheese, and my gosh, do I love it. And then we have Pommes. Pommes are fries, and this is a typical German serving of it. You'll get ketchup on one side and mayo on the other. Make sure you order Pommes mit ohne Mayo, bitte, if you don't want mayo on your fries. If I were to eat fries, which is a rare occasion for me, I like the mayo. Okay, so then we have Spetsler, or here, as it's known as Käsespätzle. Spetsler is a dumpling. It's just a simple German dumpling, and it's called Käsespätzle, or Spätzle without cheese on it. It's just Spätzle. But Käsespätzle is the dumplings. They will bake it with cheese on top, and then they will add Pretzel at the very end, which is usually fried onions or some sort of maybe it's breadcrumbs that they might fry up and put on top. Quite delicious. My grandmother, my Oma, used to make this for me, oh my gosh, 3 or 4 times a week. I just had to have it all the time. And then you have Currywurst, which is a bratwurst that they've, it's usually Weiße Wurst, but it depends on where you're getting it from, if it's Viennese, or if you're talking about something that's maybe up north around Bremen or in Berlin, it'd be different, but it's usually Weisswurst or whatnot. But it is a sausage that has been cooked and then sliced up and then covered with curry sauce. If you've not had it, it is a life-changing experience. I definitely recommend trying it. Now we have Kartoffelpuffer oder Bratkartoffeln. And Kartoffelpuffer, the Kartoffelpuffer ist, this is like latkes, like around Hanukkah and other Jewish high holy days. You'll see a lot of latkes being eaten by that community in the United States. Essentially potato pancakes. And that's what Kartoffelpuffer is. And then you have Bratkartoffeln, which is really fried, like pan-fried potato slices, right? So like home fries, etc., things that we would be familiar with in the States, definitely in England as well. Then we have rouladen. Rouladen is usually slices of beef or some meat, and on the inside they'll take pickles and various pickled vegetables, maybe pickled peppers, and of course, there's always going to be the Gurk and the German pickle slices with cheese and sauce, etc. It can either be, it's usually baked or cooked in a pan, and it is really quite good. So you should give it a try. It's also very easy to make, so look up a roulade recipe, and I think you'll have fun making that. And then we have Schnitzel. And Schnitzel is basically it's a cut of meat that's been breaded and been fried, and it's generally served with hummus. So you'll get it with the fries. It's usually got a Raumsauce, a cream sauce with mit champignons, with mushrooms, and sometimes a Feldsalat or some other intriguing and enticing thing on the side to get you to order it. But it is a mainstay of German culture. And then we have Eintopf, and this is like stew. So literally means one pot, right? I know that it's something that's become very common in our vernacular. One-pot recipes, so to speak. We have those everywhere in the world, especially in the lower 48. But here, Eintopf is just a stew. It's fairly hearty, and it gets really popular around the end of September, when it starts to really cool off. Though it starts to cool off, as we all know, somewhere in the early part of September. Der Herbst kommt. Der Herbst, the fall, the autumn comes. It comes with a vengeance. And then we have Sauerbraten. Now, this can be made any number of ways. My grandmother used to actually ferment the meat for 3 or 4 days, and then she would bake it and then add like a Jaeger sauce on top. It was so good. So check it out. Look at how your Sauerbraten is being made, but it is quite delicious, especially with a side of Spetsler. And then we have Pretzel. Pretzel, like pretzel. We can see how that started to form from what we know in English, right? But again, a mainstay in German and Austrian cuisine. And of course, the Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte. Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte. The E at the end isn't silent, but it's mentioned, right? It's Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte. And you could say Kirschtorte, of course, and that's common, but I've found that a lot of folks here, a lot of the Pfälzer speaking folks, it's ein Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte. And so that literally means Black Forest cherry torte, or cake. And it's famous around the world, as everyone has heard of the Black Forest cake. So, bestellen. So, what are we going to order here, right? What are we going to order? So, what would you like to drink? What would you like to eat? How does dessert sound? Another drink? Can I bring anything else? These are the questions that you will be asked, but they're not going to be asked uniformly like this. It might just be, möchten Sie trinken? Sie trinken? With that inflection at the end to connote the question. So, was möchten Sie trinken is really the heart of what they're going to ask you when you get there. But it can be in any different numbers of combinations. So remember, möchten Sie trinken? Sie trinken, trinken, trinken. Was möchten Sie essen? To essen. Und essen, after you've had a drink and you've had time to look at the Speisekarte. How does dessert sound, right? Wie klingt Dessert? Wie klingt Dessert? Some people will say, wie klingt Dessert? Dessert. But you'll know the word. That's where we get it. Another drink? Noch ein Getränk? Noch einmal? Another? That's asking if you want another. And can I bring anything else? Kann ich noch etwas mitbringen? Kann ich noch etwas mitbringen? So I've answered here some options for you to potentially memorize. If you don't dig it, you can go into Google Translate and come up with your own response, clearly. But was möchten Sie trinken? I would ask for einen roten, trockenen Wein, bitte. Einen roten, trockenen Wein, bitte. Einen roten, trockenen Wein, bitte. I'm asking for a red, dry wine, please. Was möchten Sie essen? Ich nehme bitte den Wurststeller. Ich nehme bitte den Wurststeller. I'll take, please, the sausage plate. Wie klingt dessert? How does dessert sound? Nein, danke. No, thank you. Nein, danke. No, thank you. And the whole sentence here is I'm just saying I'll just have an espresso, please. So, nein, danke. Nur einen Espresso, bitte. Nein, danke. Nur einen Espresso, bitte. So when you say nein to someone, that's why I put the emphasis on nein, danke. It just means no, thank you. You want to say nein, danke. Noch ein Getränk? So, do you want anything else to drink? Ja, das gleiche nochmal bitte. Yeah, the same again, please. Kann ich noch etwas mitbringen? Kann ich bitte sofort bezahlen? So instead of bringing me anything else to eat or anything else, can I please pay the check? Kann ich bitte sofort bezahlen? Kann ich bitte sofort bezahlen? Kann ich bitte sofort bezahlen? Now, we're going to watch a quick video that I think is somewhat important because it tells us, it's going to give you a clue as to how to go to drop from the informal to the formal when using Google Translate. So let's take a look at that. About using Google Translate, and so let's just pull that up real quick and take a look here. Let's say you've been on Facebook, on Marketplace, and you found an item someone's selling that you want to buy, and you're having a conversation back and forth, and you want to say, hey, that sounds great, can I meet you at the mall? Once you put that in, you'll see that each sentence becomes translated, and pretty reliably. Es klingt gut, yeah, okay. Kann ich dich im Einkaufszentrum treffen? So, dich here is the informal. And so if you don't know this person, right? So if you want to change that to a more formal approach, you just click on it and then go down to your next option, which is kann ich Sie in der Mall treffen? And boom, you've got it. Then just hit your copy translation button and off you go. It's as easy as that. And I hope that was helpful. I don't know that I've ever done that with my phone. I guess I'll need to try it with my phone. But nevertheless, next week, the class voted, and we're going to keep it food related so we can keep the theme going. We are going to learn about grocery shopping, and then we will get into shopping at the mall, etc. So, until then, we will see you later. Just be safe.